Thank you. Good morning. Wonderful to be back in Pasco County, and I'm pleased to be joined with so many great folks. We have our Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz. We have Senate President Wilton Simpson, Sheriff of Pasco County, Chris Nacco, Pasco County Superintendent of Schools, Kurt Browning, U.S. Congressman Gus Bilirakis, Senator Danny Burgess, Representative Artie Nzika, Dr. Tony Zetsky, the principal of River Ridge High School, is hosting us here today, so I want to thank her. And then Russell Vachon, who's a teacher here at River Ridge High School. So we want to thank them, and we have some great announcements that we're going to be making today. But we also, before we do that, would like to point out all that we've been able to accomplish with respect to education in the state of Florida. When I got elected, I said that we were going to eliminate Common Core, and we did. So we now have... We've now implemented really strong BEST standards that focus on core academic learning, and something that will, I think, serve the students of Florida very well. We said that we would eliminate the FSA, and we did. And we now will be moving towards a system of progress monitoring, where you can monitor students' progress throughout the school year, actually get real-time feedback, so that the parents and teachers are able to help remedy any deficiencies. And, you know, the FSA, you'd spend so much time studying for this at the end of the school year. By the time you got the results, you're in summer vacation, and there wasn't any way to really remedy any deficiencies. We've also made Florida very strong in terms of what we've been able to do with teacher compensation. You hear about needing more teachers. This is something that we identified years ago, and so we made an effort, and we have done the largest teacher pay increases in the history of Florida over the last 2-3 years. And we focused a lot of that on increasing the average minimum salary across the state of Florida. 3 years ago, it was barely $40,000. Now, with the budget we just enacted, the average minimum salary throughout the state will be over $48,000. And so that's a huge increase. We've also increased salaries beyond that, and we put in the budget 2 years ago, and we've done it now. This is the third year in a row we'll have done it. We put in a specific teacher categorical so that the money has to go to teacher salaries. You know, we did, you do funding. We did record funding for the schools, which is good, but that does not necessarily have to go. Districts can kind of use it different ways, and there's, you know, some benefits to that flexibility, but we also said we want to do teacher pay. And so we said we're going to put money into it. So this past year, just in that categorical, we did $800 million, and Florida's never done that much in the history of our state, and we'll be making more announcements going forward about what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about recruiting, it's not like you're going to be a billionaire if you go into teaching. People understand that. It's a service. But if you want to recruit people that are talented, you know, it does make a difference to be able to be more competitive. And so we've made huge strides in that, and we're very proud of that. We've also had huge investment in early literacy, which is, at the end of the day, if you're reading at third level in third grade, the chance of you being able to graduate high school is very strong. If you're behind by third grade, the chance that you drop out or have other problems goes up dramatically. So we've put a lot of emphasis on that. The most recent NAEP from 2019, we were fourth in the country in fourth grade reading, and adjusted for demographics, the Urban Institute did a study, ranked us #1 in the country for both fourth grade reading and math when you adjust the state for demographics. And so I think it's paying off what we're doing, but we want to continue to do more. We've also done an emphasis on American civics, making sure that people, students, have an understanding of what it means to be an American, understanding where our rights come from, understanding how the Constitution is structured, understanding how all those ideas have been important in various periods of American history, from the American Revolution through the Civil War, World War II, Civil Rights Movement through the Cold War, and also having an effort to show how America is different than other systems. And so I signed legislation dedicating November 7th as a day to honor the victims of communism. And we're going to have during that day in schools, there's going to be instruction for our students that's going to highlight the 100 million plus people who were killed at the hands of communist regimes throughout the 20th century. These ideas are still there. They still have a foothold, including in our own hemisphere. And we need to tell people the truth about just how destructive those comparative systems have been. So we're doing that and then some. We're also have put an emphasis on workforce education. I'm a big believer in being equipped to do things in life and be productive. Sometimes that means go to a 4-year brick and ivy university, but that is not the best pathway for everybody. And certainly when you're going down a university pathway and you go $100,000 in debt, like many students have, and then you end up with a degree that's not worth the paper it's printed on, that's not a good investment. That's a millstone around your neck where you end up in a job you could have at a high school anyways. And so what we say is, yes, we're happy that we have a high quality, affordable state university system. Since I've been governor, there have been no tuition increases at our state universities. And so you actually... People are shocked when they say, some of the tuition, it varies, within a certain range, but you're looking at between $5,800 and $6,400 for in-state tuition. That's unheard of pretty much anywhere in the country. And so we believe that you need to be able to get a high-quality education that's affordable for every family. And we've done it such that, if you get bright futures or this, you really don't have to go into debt at all, which is really, I think, very, very important. So we believe in that. At the same time, there's other pathways that are very, very productive for a lot of people. And you see the type of skills that are in demand in the economy, concrete skills, skilled labor, things like welding, things like HVAC, truck driving. And so we've put an emphasis on that. And people are able to go and make really, really good living as really very young. And a lot of them can spin off. If you're talking electrical, HVAC, they can even spin off and start their own companies. And so it gives them a chance to be entrepreneurs. So our message is basically a 4-year brick and ivy is not necessary for everybody. We want you to have the pathway that's best for you, but don't let anyone tell you doing these other pathways you're somehow less than somebody that's going and getting a 4-year degree, because a lot of people have gotten a lot of 4-year degrees that have not been worth the investment that they put out. Look, if you're going to go $100,000 in debt and you become an engineer from MIT, you're probably going to be fine. I'm not going to lie to you there. But if you go to some 4th-tier university and get some weird major and you get it, the heavens, the seas aren't going to part for you. I mean, that's just not the way it works. So we've done a lot on workforce, and we're going to continue to do that, particularly with things like apprenticeships. And actually, part of our announcement today, we'll be building off our belief that yes, there's role for being in like a university lecture hall, but in most endeavors in life, you really learn by doing. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that. So all together with everything we've been able to do, we also did financial literacy. To be able to teach students, make sure they have a good grounding in financial literacy. They understand how to manage money. They understand different important principles related to kind of personal economic situations. And the degree of financial illiteracy in our society is very high. And so we think that that's important to be able to address that. So we signed the financial literacy. Was that last year we did that? Or yeah, it was last year, yeah. We did that. So we did that in 2021. So that's really important. So the result has been 2021 K-12 Achievement Rankings Quality Count Survey by Education Week. Florida ranked number 3 in the entire country for K-12 achievement. And that was not the case when I was growing up here in the state of Florida, just south of here in Pinellas County. And so we really feel like the dividends, we're reaping dividends for all our hard work and all the investment. And obviously, it helps when you actually have schools open, which many places didn't in 2020. And we understood how important that was. Unfortunately, it was very controversial to even do that. We faced a lot of incoming, particularly from the media and these unions and all these other things. But I just said, you know what, the kids cannot be left behind. And there were states around this country that left their kids behind, that denied them an education, denied them opportunity to participate in activities and athletics, and that was very, very harmful. So I'm proud in Florida, from the state level all the way down to individual schools, we all recognize the importance of this. You had the school districts step up, you had teachers and principals step up, and the parents, obviously, very, very much thankful that this happened. And so we are so much better off because we made that decision 2 years ago. And they're now saying, oh, how bad it was. No one could have foreseen, the destructiveness of these lengthy school closures. Yeah, we foresaw it. That's why we didn't do it. So we recently signed legislation. So when we focused on the salaries, we wanted to do, we did salaries for every teacher, but we really focused on raising that average minimum so that we could recruit more teachers, because we understood that there was going to be a need for more. You also just see the way the economy in Florida. I mean, I know there's a lot of national headwinds, but in Florida, we've had a lot of opportunities over the last couple of years because we were open. And so people had opportunities to do very well in a variety of endeavors. And so there's just a lot of factors. So we understood that there was going to be a need, continuing need to address teacher recruitment. So the legislature passed, and I signed a bill recently identifying military veterans that have 4 years or more of active duty honorable service, who have 60 college credit hours, who have passed the exam, and that what they would basically be able to do is they would be able to get a temporary certificate, be able to teach, and then obviously work to get their bachelor's degree. And it was unanimously passed by the legislature. Some in the media just recently started attacking us over this. They said you can't just put any old warm body in the classroom. And look, as a veteran, I will tell you, like, the people that serve our country are not just some warm body. They're people that have a lot to offer. So we're proud of that. We think it makes a lot of sense. And Manny will tell you, we have interest in people that are applying. So it's good. But we want to build off that. So we're going to announce 3 initiatives today that we're going to be pursuing with the next legislative session to build off our efforts to increase recruitment and retention of great teachers. And so we are proposing first a governor's recruitment program focusing on our heroes. So in addition to recruiting retired military veterans, we also want to include first responders, law enforcement, EMTs, paramedics, firefighters who have their bachelor's degree to become teachers and bring their leadership and wisdom into the classroom. And what we will do, just like we do for veterans, we will do for the other first responders. We will waive the exam fees for the state teacher certification exam. And if you do sign up under this program, those teachers will be eligible for a $4,000 bonus to be able to serve. And if they teach courses that have really acute shortages in those subject matters, they'll get another $1,000. And so that'll be a $5,000 bonus for first responders who go in to those. And so some of the areas where we've been short, science, ESE, reading, and those are all very, very important. And so we believe that the folks that have served our communities have an awful lot to offer. And we've got people that have served 20 years in law enforcement. They retire, and some of them are looking for kind of the next chapter in their life. Same with the military. Got people that join when they're 18, and they're retired with 20 years before they're 40 years old. Well, they're not going to just sit around on their hands. They want to do something. So we want to provide a pathway. We want to incentivize them being able to help. The second proposal that we have. The second proposal that we have is a teacher apprenticeship program. And I believe that the teachers that become great teachers don't become great teachers because they're sitting in some university lecture hall listening to some professor bloviate. I don't think that's what makes a teacher great. I think what makes a teacher great is actually being there, doing it, watching experienced teachers and see what they do that works, working directly with students. And it's something that you acquire skills as you're doing it. So we believe apprenticeships are a huge part of that. So we are going to have a teacher apprenticeship program that will allow Floridians with their associate's degree to get professional experience teaching in the classroom under the mentorship of an experienced teacher. So they will spend 2 years teaching under the leadership of a high-quality teacher mentor to gain real-world classroom experience. The apprentice will then go on to receive the bachelor's degree, and the teacher mentor, for every apprentice that they have, the mentor will get a $4,000 bonus. And so spending time in the classroom, being taught from a professor is fine, but spending time in the classroom where you are watching somebody that has experience and you have hands-on experience, that is really what's going to make. So we believe in doing, and we believe in learning by doing, and this is going to be a great program, and it will obviously be a great boon to experienced teachers who want to participate in this and want to help mentor our future teachers. And then finally, we're proposing a new scholarship program to help current high school teachers earn their master's degree, which will allow them to teach dual enrollment courses at the high school where they currently work. So right now, dual enrollment is one of the more popular ways for students to gain college credit during high school and save themselves money and time for getting their either 2 or 4 year degree. So during the last school year, over 92,000 public school students participated in dual enrollment. Dual enrollment allows students to earn both high school and college credit, but no cost to the student for the college credit. So what has happened is the students typically have to travel between the high school campus and the college campus, which is not always the easiest thing to do, and particularly can be more challenging in more rural communities. So this will expand dual enrollment opportunities for students because they'll be able to get college credit without even having to leave their high school campus. The scholarship program will help teachers cover the cost of tuition, fees, and books for their master's courses. And we believe that this will be very enticing for a lot of teachers to be able to expand their horizons, and particularly with us underwriting the cost really makes a lot of sense. And so this will be a win for students because they'll have more opportunity. It'll also be a win for teachers and their professional development. So we look forward to working on these very important initiatives. We've done an awful lot in education. There's not been a single state that's done more than we have over the last few years. However, there's more to do, and we want to make sure that we're leaning in, leaning forward, and meeting the challenges that are before us as a state throughout all the communities in Florida. So we're going to hear from some other folks. So first, we're going to hear from our Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz.
Thank you, Governor, and it's great to be here in Pasco County and seeing the schools are open. Superintendent, it's great to see schools open. I'm just so proud of the leadership of Governor DeSantis in education, and a lot of these things make just total common sense. I mean, before there was a quote-unquote teacher shortage, Governor DeSantis was leading on providing a categorical to make sure that we increase teacher salaries, because it's normal that first of all, there's attrition because of the retirement numbers and because things have changed in the marketplace. But the governor saw that and provided leadership and pushed us in that direction. And thanks to that, we're in a better place today. And these three ideas, these three initiatives are incredibly important because we go back to the military pathway that the governor mentioned, where we get our veterans who have incredible skills, soft skills, commitment, dedication, discipline to bring into our classroom. And that provides us another pathway for us to have our superintendents and our principals be able to identify folks from that pathway to bring them into the classroom. Remember, at the end of the day, it's our professionals on the ground that are making the decisions on the individual teacher that they hire in the classroom. But we're so lucky to have a governor that understands this and is pragmatic about it. In having the opportunity to now piggyback on the military pathway to provide bonuses to entice veterans to come in, and not just veterans, but Sheriff, maybe we may be going back into these rows behind you to recruit some of your folks to come into education with these bonuses. But, you know, you're looking at these professionals who have given their life to public service, And oftentimes they retire at an early age where they still have the incentive and the time to work. And what better place to have them than in front of our young people in a classroom? I mean, they have discipline, again, they have commitment, and if they're ready to serve in the classroom, we can provide mentorship and assistance to make sure we enhance the tools in the classroom, but they come with those skills that are ready-made and we can't teach. The other part is this dual enrollment scholarship, really, especially in rural districts, to provide the opportunity. First of all, we're talking about apprenticeships, right, and pathways, but here we're providing our current teachers an opportunity to increase their credentials and provide better opportunities for our students at the end of the day, especially in rural districts where there's not access to a state college nearby. And when we can have these classes taught at the school, more students will participate, and at the end of the day, they can get an associate's degree, they can leave high school with 60 credits, and they're not saddled with debt when they go into the next level of education, if that's what they choose to do, or they can clearly choose another pathway, as the governor brought up, where we can go straight into the workforce and make money. And then when we're talking about the apprenticeship, here's another model where we provide an opportunity for folks with 60 credits. We have these people already in our schools. They're working in different positions. They have an interest in education. Let's put them together with a master teacher and provide them real-life experience, because I can tell you from my experience, coming out of college, until I walked into that classroom and was handed the keys and the textbook, there's nothing in any book or any professor can teach you that you're going to really realize until you face that classroom with these students. So that apprenticeship program is really going to provide another pipeline. And as you can see, this is a systematic way for us to increase the pool of teachers, the military pathway, the bonuses, the apprenticeship, the dual enrollment scholarships. I commend our governor, because Florida is the education state, and he's clearly the education governor. Thank you, Governor.
You know, we just enacted the law enforcement recruitment bonuses, and so someone comes down from NYPD, Chicago, these places where they're just being treated horribly, they come down, they get a $5,000 bonus for any municipal, county, state, any of our agencies, they're able to go. And so So I know there's been a lot of interest in that, but you may have a situation, you'll have maybe someone come in law enforcement and get the $5,000 bonus, serve 5 years, and then they could potentially go into school and get another bonus and do that. And so we think we're really putting our money where our mouth is, to really focus on people that have the servant's heart, that are willing to go out there and serve their communities, and we think that means a lot. Okay, someone that has served our community in a variety of ways. We have Russell Vachon.
Thank you for this opportunity, Governor and everyone here. I first want to thank some people in the room that are really special to me, and that's our active duty members, our veterans, our teachers, and our first responders. So thank you. I'm here, we talk about pathways, and I wanted to share a story because it's really close to my heart. I grew up here in Pasco County, and after high school, I went into the U.S. Navy. And through the U.S. Navy, I was young. I had an opportunity to serve in Pearl Harbor on board a destroyer. I took 2 6-month tours of the Gulf, visited 24 countries, and in that whole process, decision-making was a point. I had to make decisions. I had to stay calm under pressure, and it was a learning experience, and those things I hold dear to my heart here as a teacher. And leaving the Navy, I entered the financial services industry. Now, the financial services industry, I was able to use the skills I had as a veteran, talk to people face-to-face, which I know is sometimes something we're not seeing a lot of today with the phones and technology, but its ability to have a conversation with people. And then I was able to use that, and I got a call from a friend one day from a Title I school here in Pasco, and he called me. He's like, hey, would you be able to come in and talk to our kids here at the school about financial literacy? He's like, I think it would be an impact. And I said, sure, why not? And the school I went to wasn't any old school. It happened to be a school I went and graduated from, Hudson High School. And going into that school, I went in, the kids weren't engaged, and then I started talking to them about financial information, budgeting, what do? They didn't know a lot. And then I started sharing my experiences with them. from around the world, how all the other countries relate to ours and how great of a country we do have here, and how to speak to people, public speaking, and the room came alive. They started looking at me, talking. I was able to tie what they were learning to things they use every day, to the real world. And I think that's so essential in the classrooms today. With veterans coming in, one, we share experience, we're accountable. Time, management, discipline, all these things come in, but most importantly is structure. I know we got first responders here, active duty veterans. Creating structure is one of the most important things that I think gets passed up. Creating a sense where people feel safe in the classroom and they voluntarily want to be better. They want to do great things out there. And when I heard this from the kids, something kind of tugged at me, and I knew right then this was so much more rewarding than anything I ever did in the financial services industry. I knew going into that classroom with those kids was just something that you can't even explain. So from that point, I finished my time with the financial services industry, but I had to go back and do my bachelor's online. So working 60 hours a week, I had pretty much the rest of my bachelor's to go, which I did online through Florida State University. I have kids at home with my wife, but I did have a great mentor. My wife is also a teacher, and one of the best teachers I know. But having that, when coming into the school system, I was able to have my experiences to lean on, but I had these great mentors around me. And here at the New Teacher Academy here at this school, River Ridge, we have Beth Hess, who's kind of guided me through some areas. And I've been teaching for a little more than 10 years, going on 11 years. And I don't see anything else I'd much rather do than this. But again, I think this is my journey. This is my pathway from a veteran to a teacher. I think they're special to be in. And the veterans, first responders, I mean, just great people and great experience.
All right.
So, God blesses us. It's another great day in Pasco County. And on behalf of our great state and federal delegation, we want to thank you, Governor, for being here. Welcome, Secretary Diaz, as he's been on a whirlwind tour since he's taken over. But, there is a clear message for veterans and first responders. Florida welcomes you. Governor DeSantis welcomes you. Pasco has and will continue to welcome you. And that's a great message out there, across the nation, because a lot of places they don't feel welcomed. Well, please, get in that U-Haul truck, come down to Florida. You will be welcomed here. I know we're talking about teachers today, and yeah, Secretary, you're not stealing any of our law enforcement officers from us. But that's one thing. We have a lot of veterans who are standing here with us today, part of our command staff. And Mr. Governor, we do have a Navy veteran for you too, with us. But as a sheriff's office, we've won numerous awards, for recruiting, retaining, helping those members that are still in the National Guard and reserves. But that's who we are, not just as a Pasco Sheriff's Office, but as a Pasco community, as in the state. The legislature has done a great job over the years, and our governor signed those bills, encouraging people, saying, look, if you want to work in these positions, you can still do public service back at home, but when our nation calls you to go overseas, we're going to be here for you and for your families, which is critical. So I know as we talk about teachers, and we talk about military, going in, becoming teachers, and the other side of it is the first responders. And so I know there's a lot that have served their time, and they're looking for a change. They said, hey, I'm going to retire, I want to move on. And so I get it from a parent standpoint, bring in law enforcement officers, first responders, firefighters in that room. Let me encourage you how great that would be. First and foremost, we talk about public safety issues. And at a time where violence, critical incidents are going on, who else would you want in those classrooms? To have a firefighter in that room, when we talk about overdoses, have a law enforcement in that room, you talk about school shooting, violence. It'd be great to have these people in the room. I can assure you as a parent, I'd be happy to know there was a former first responder that's teaching our kids. There's a lot of kids that need mentoring out there. There's a lot of kids that are, in tragic homes and situations. And so, to have a first responder and have a law enforcement officer be able to, talk to them about, the cell phone. Hey, let me tell you from a real world experience, if you stay on that cell phone, you meet the wrong people, what path you're going to be on. That's what grabs their attention, because you're giving them a real world experience. The other one too is from a law enforcement perspective, I can tell you, we go into tragic situations. We go into those domestic scenes in the middle of the night. We go where there's overdoses. We go where, there's been a homicide or something bad has happened, and there's a child sitting there. And, we have a great partnership with our school district where we call up the school district and let the teachers know, hey, we want to let you know this child's been in a tragic situation. But now you're putting law enforcement officers, firefighters who have been in those situations that can mentor those kids, and say, hey, I know what you've probably been through last night. I've been on those calls. Let me help you through it. Because if we don't think mental health is not an issue in our state and our country, we're absolutely wrong. And we have to help these kids out. I can tell you from firsthand experience, we can teach a lot of subjects differently and with a great twist. You know, from math, you know, our economic detectives, they can talk a lot about how math is used and explain how things happen. You know, from the field of science, you know, our firefighters, our forensics teams, they can talk about science from that experience and say, let me show you how this really happens. You know, from psychology, healthcare, to mental health issues, we have firsthand experience. We've been there, done that. We can talk about that from that perspective. You know, from an engineering, our firefighters and emergency personnel, they can talk about structures, design, how things work. You know, they have that perspective, and they can go in the world and say to these students, let me explain to you what happens if there's a structure fire. Let me tell you why you have to build a building that way. You know, from technology, you know, the Pasco Sheriff's Office, we're building a center called FIRST. It's an economic development center. We have public-private partnerships, and we're partnering with universities and students. We could talk about drones, cybersecurity, things that are going to shape the future. And I say this jokingly to my firefighter brothers and sisters. You know, I know the school district has a culinary program. There's no better cooks than our firefighters a lot of times. And so they could be talking about, hey, you want to make a great meal? You want to be a chef, open a restaurant? Let me tell you how the firehouse is run. So, but you have things such as leadership, innovation, patriotism, and the big word, empathy. We know how, you know, to understand where people are coming from. We understand that people come from different environments, have different backgrounds. We can empathize, and we can help those students up so that they become leaders and they don't feel disenfranchised in the system. You know, I want to thank our governor for his leadership, and not just in education, public safety. The economic development, everything he's doing, he's leading Florida. That's why Florida is the best state in the union, and we have the best governor in the union, because of what he's doing. As Secretary Diaz said, it's a common sense approach. That's what everybody's calling for. It's common sense. Common sense to put, you know, if we can have retired veterans come into the classrooms, why not? It makes sense. We can recruit the best and brightest that, you know, the military has spent millions of dollars training. Why would we not want them here in our community helping us? Why would we not want first responders that are retired to say, come into the classroom and teach our teachers? You know, overseas, they spend millions of dollars because the teaching profession is held to the highest esteem. And that's what our governor's doing. He's bringing that back up to that level that our teachers should be held to the highest esteem because they got one of the most important jobs ever. They're teaching the next generation. So if we want the next generation to succeed, that's what our governor's doing. He's investing in our teachers. That is a great thing. And I'll leave it at this. You know, Pasco, every day we keep improving, and Florida keeps improving as a whole because of our governor. And we are blessed to have him. We thank you, Governor, for being here in Pasco County.
Good morning. I always like following the sheriff. As a super, what's that?
I was going to say, you don't want me driving behind you.
No, nor I you. As superintendent of the 10th largest district in Florida, we are thrilled to have Governor DeSantis here this morning. And what he has described today is a reality in school districts all across Florida. Just last week, this district was facing upwards of 350 teacher vacancies. As of yesterday, we're down to 195, which is much better, not as good as where we were this time last year. But it's not just a Pasco issue, it is a statewide issue. As a matter of fact, it's a national issue. I believe that the initiatives that the governor is proposing today will go a very long way to helping us recruit and retain great teachers in Pasco's classrooms. There is nothing more important than a great teacher standing before our students in our classrooms. Let me just say that the pathways issue that's been talked about this morning, I was one of those parents that thought that if either one of my boys didn't go to college, I was going to die. I was just going to be very disappointed. But what I learned very quickly was that all kids are not cut out for college. There needs to be other pathways. There needs to be other opportunities for our kids. And through the efforts of this governor, this Department of Education, and our legislative leaders. We have provided those pathways for our kids. The school safety issue, I will give credit due, and that is to Sheriff Naco and his team. I believe that Pasco has some of the safest schools in the state based on the efforts of what our legislature did and what our governor's done and what our law enforcement team has done here in Pasco County to ensure the safety of our students and staff. So I'm very excited about these proposals. Look forward to helping shepherd them along during the upcoming legislative session. And we are always looking for great teachers to be in our classrooms. So, Governor, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your service.
Well, thanks so much. We're excited about this. I think it's going to make a difference. And, as Kurt said, this is a nationwide issue. And Florida, if you look at our vacancies compared to the nation as a whole, we actually have a smaller percentage of vacancies than the nation as a whole. But nevertheless, this is something that's very, very important. So we appreciate Commissioner Diaz. They're working 7 days a week to process all the teacher applications when you have to go through the Department of Education, and because they understand the urgency. And so this is a round-the-clock process, and they have had a lot of people that have been coming as school starts, and so we're just going to keep working on it. But I think the steps that we've made have been great. I'm also glad, if you think back some of the things that we did. Yes, the schools being open, very important. But, we got into 2021, and I think we were the first state in the country to ban any school districts from forcing students to get COVID shots. And our view basically was just, look, these kids are incredibly low risk. At that time, we didn't necessarily have a lot of data on the efficacy of the COVID shot, but clearly, if you're at close to zero risk anyways, the idea that they should be forced to do that did not make sense to us at all. So we put the kibosh on that very early. You have some of these other places around the country that are still clinging to this idea, like D.C., that these students should be excluded from school if they don't get a COVID shot. Mind you, most of them have already had COVID at this point. And we also see the efficacy, how it's not stopping you from getting infected. And whatever you get wanes very quickly. So that's just the reality. And so to take a drastic step of excluding a child from the classroom over a mandate that has no basis in science or fact is terrible governance. And it's not fair to those kids. So we put the kids first. We wanted parents to be able to make decisions for that. And yes, we're one of the only states, I think we may be the only state, where our Department of Health recommends for parents not to do the young kids with it. Now, you're free it's a free state, you're free to make a different choice, but if you look at the data and compare the cost benefit, there's just not been a benefit that's been shown to doing it. And so that's following science, it's following the data, it's not just going along with the crowd, but that's just, I think, the appropriate thing. So of course, no mandate, and then we've also actually said, not something that's even recommended. So I really, we saw kids locked out of school for school lockdowns, and now we see the clinging on to these failed policies to the detriment, and it hurts the lower income kids is who it hurts. That's really where it's at. So we're glad that we went in a different direction, and we think that we're much better off as a result. Okay, happy to take some questions. Anybody back there? Yes.
Governor,
who are you?
David Happy with Tidings Media, sir.
Okay.
Quick question for you, and thank you, Governor. In Pinellas County, the Pinellas County School Board put forth a private contract with a for-public corporation for international teachers. They're going to have an international hiring quota for teachers that are non-citizen teachers. I noticed that wasn't part of your plan. Where do international teachers play in your game plan for Florida?
I mean, look, with everything, I think that, we're putting Floridians first, okay? We're putting Americans first. I do not want to if we have a qualified teacher in the United States or in Florida, I don't want to go with a foreigner over somebody that's from our communities. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, in some situations, I don't know how it would work, what they're doing, but clearly, we believe in putting the people here in Florida first, and our programs are designed to benefit Floridians, not people in other countries. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
I was reading about how, generally speaking, teaching profession is not being chosen by many college students. You have fewer kids or young women and men going into the profession. So do you think this is going to help jumpstart enthusiasm?
I hope so. So the question was basically, teaching is not being pursued by a lot of people that are in college right now to the extent it was. I mean, you go back like after World War II, that was a great job. It was pursued, and that's kind of waned over the years. And I think even more recently, it's been very. So that's one of the reasons we've done a lot with average minimum salaries, because we want to recruit and retain. And the average minimum was not just starting; it was the average minimum in the state was $40,000. We had a lot of teachers making between $40,000 and $48,000. They all got increases too. So everyone does to be able to stay. So that was part of it. But I do think these schools of education and the specific way they go about it, I don't think is the right way to do it. I don't think these ed schools have been proven to be effective. I think what you do is you get people that have proficiency in core academic disciplines, and then you have them go in. But trying to teach them at like certain schools of education, I think that's been overtaken by ideology. And so I think that's a turnoff for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, I think most people that would want to get into it, they want to get into it and they want to be there and they want to be helping students. They don't want to be kind of a cog in some indoctrination machine. And that's what we in Florida, our mantra has been, our schools are to educate kids, not indoctrinate kids. And we're not going to have all this stuff where we were going. And so hopefully what we're doing is saying that teaching is not about learning, quote, education in college or university. It's really about having proficiency in subjects and then learning on the ground about how to do it. And the thing is, you can have people that do well in like a college course. Some of them, they get in front of the classroom and they're not up to snuff. There's other people that may not have had as high a grade point average in university courses, but they have real energy and they connect with the students and they just do a really good job. And so that is something that I think you can't really judge on an academic transcript, but certainly we would prefer people with real world experience and academic proficiency in the core subjects they're teaching, English, math, science, not saying, oh, I went to the school of education somewhere and they taught me kind of how to teach, because, I've seen that and I've been very underwhelmed by it. And as I said, I think that that's really been a magnet for a lot of ideology. And at the end of the day, if you look what's happening in our society, you see institutions being infected with ideology at the expense of facts and reality. And we're fighting this thing with the medical board because they want to do sex change operations for minors. So a 14-year-old cannot get a tattoo, but somehow you could have you're talking about they will do mastectomies, they will do stuff at the bottom, which is very, very problematic and irreversible. And, these are kids that are going through a growing time in their life. There's a lot of different factors, and most of the dysphoria resolves itself by the time they become adults. So why would you disfigure a minor to be able to do? And so, but this is something that the medical establishment is globbed onto as like something that is about, I don't know, like opportunity. I don't even know how they're couching it. But other countries have gone down this road. In Europe, they recognized this was damaging these kids, and they've reversed course because they've actually followed the data. So we're following the data on it, and basically what you have is a lot of ideology that is trying to be put into medicine, and that's very, very dangerous. And I think you see it in other things too. Obviously, some of the COVID response, if you listen to some of these people about what they said would do. Remember they said if everyone wears a mask for 6 weeks that COVID will end? They told us that. That was a lie, okay? And if they believe that, then they're not competent to be in those positions. They said that school closures were necessary. They were wrong about that. They said you had to force mask kids. It was very devastating. The American Society of Pediatrics actually had things on their website talking about how important it is for young kids to have facial cues and all this stuff. When the masking craze hit, they took all that down off their website. They took it down because they wanted to follow the narrative and they weren't willing to stand with what was right. Now people are looking at the research, they're saying, oh man, the masks will hurt the kids. Now we banned the masks in Florida with the legislature, with the Parents' Bill of Rights and other actions. But you know, the reality is that was not grounded in data. It was not grounded in evidence. It was basically the current thing. You know, people would put in their Twitter profile a mask and a syringe, and that was like their identity. And it was ridiculous. They lied to us about the mRNA shots. They said if you take it, you will not get COVID. That is false. That is not true. And they continue to say, even now when the evidence is so overwhelming, that not only is that not true, people that have multiple boosters, you know, you're definitely at risk of getting it. There's no question about that. So it's just time and time again, I think you've seen ideology placed over data and evidence. And then what happens is that they will say something like, okay, 6 weeks of masks will end COVID. So that's what they claim. It doesn't happen. And then what they'll do is they will kind of move the goalposts and say, well, you know, only 95% wore it. So now, and they will constantly try to shift because they will never admit that their ideology was incorrect. So that's very, very dangerous when you're looking at all these things. So that's a problem with our society that we're grappling with. And what I've said in the state of Florida, because we've taken on woke corporations, we've taken on ESG. Obviously in the classroom, we've battled a lot of ideologies. But what I've said is that the state of Florida is the place where woke goes to die. We are not going to let this state. We're not going to let this state descend into some type of woke dumpster fire. We're going to be following common sense. We're going to be following, facts, and that's just really, really important. So, anyways, thank you guys for being here. God bless you all.
Okay, good. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, absolutely.
You guys ready to teach?